This video was brought to you in part by TechDex. Yay. Hi, I'm Tony Hawk, pro skater. I've been skating the last 22 years of my life, the last 18 as a professional. And the question I get asked most often is, how do you learn to skate? What are the basics? Well, we're here to take you through them with the help of some other pro skaters, and we want to get you started with all the basics of skating. So let's start skating.
Shoes and tell me who I am. I can't apologize 'cause I've done nothing wrong, but I never turn my back on my friends.
In this video, we're going to cover the basics of skateboarding. We're going to take you through starting out, getting in motion with pushing and turning the skateboard. We're going to talk about some basic street tricks like the illustrious ollie and kick flips and shove-its. We're also going to take you to ramp skating and teach you how to pump the transitions, teach you how to drop in, kick turn. And then we're going to take you to ledges and rails and talk about grinds and slides on there. And first off, you're going to need a skateboard though. So we recommend you go to a specialty skate shop and not a toy store, because the people there really know what they're talking about and they'll give you the best products. So let's go check in with Stan at the boardroom. All right, we're here at the boardroom in Encinitas, California. I'm here with Stan, who is the product manager here in sales, and he is the master of all things skateboarding. Hey, Stan.
Hey, Tony.
And we're going to give you a general overview of what you need to get started in skating, from the decks, trucks, wheels, bearings, and safety equipment. We're going to cover what is necessary for beginning skaters and intermediate skaters for different types of terrain and also different styles of skating. You ready to get started, Stan?
Let's get it on.
So the first necessity of a skateboard is obviously the deck itself, and decks come in a variety of shapes and sizes. Most of the shapes are very similar, so that's not of a great concern, but the size is definitely an important aspect. They start off at about 7 inches wide and go all the way up to 8.5 inches wide. And what would you say for a beginner?
Probably a mid-sized board, about 7 3/4.
Yeah, something about that does that because it's more stable.
Yeah, it gives them a little wider surface, get used to riding.
If you're comfortable with riding a skateboard and you want to get into more technical aspect, if you have smaller feet especially, you might want to get into a mini shape, and those are about
7 1/4, and they come a bit shorter.
So the mini shapes are a little smaller, but much more maneuverable. You can do the ollies and the flips, and the board is just easier to navigate. And so, but in the beginning, we recommend you get a medium-sized board because you're able to really skate all types of terrain, and it'll get you started. Once you've found the right size board for you, the next thing you need is a set of trucks. And trucks will probably last you the longest of any component on your skateboard. Basically, you want to get trucks that match the width of your board, so you can tell if it's the right width if the outside bolts line up with the edge of the board. And if they're flush, then you've got the right size trucks.
And you definitely want to stick these on the inside facing each other with the big bolts.
Yeah, because if you don't, your board's going to turn the opposite direction which you lean. Trust me, because I have put them on wrong and not looked, dropped in, and fallen real hard.
Definitely you want to give yourself time to wear these things in. They're going to want to turn one way in the beginning, but once you get a pair set in, it'll last you a while.
Yeah, make sure you loosen them, tighten them to your own preference, because if you loosen them, they might be too wobbly. If you're going fast, you're going to want them more stable. You're going to want them tighter, especially if you weigh more. These are wheels. And wheels come in all similar shapes, but a variety of sizes, anywhere from 50 millimeters to 60 millimeters. And that may not seem like a lot of difference, but it can mean a lot of difference when you're trying to get speed or you're trying to be stable. What would you recommend for a beginner?
For a beginner, probably a bigger wheel, 55, 58, that way you can roll over the little rocks.
Right, and that'll also keep you going faster. You might want to go to a smaller wheel when you get more comfortable. That allows you to do tricks easier, lower center of gravity. Well, before you want to put on trucks or wheels on your board, you're going to need grip tape. And that's what keeps your feet to the board so they don't slip off. There are different ways of putting it on. I chose one method is just to show the logo through so you can tell the tail from the nose. But if you cover the entire board, you can just put different color bolts on your nose or your tail to tell which end is which, because when you're looking at a board covered with grip tape, it's hard to tell. Alright, so you got your deck, you've got your trucks, you've got your wheels. The only missing piece is the bearings. And bearings are basically come in a set of 8. There are 2 per wheel, one on the inside, one on the outside. And they come in a variety of ratings, 1, 3, and 5. 5 being the fastest, the most easy rolling, but for a beginner,
doesn't matter.
It won't really matter. You won't notice the difference. And to put them on is pretty easy. You can just put 2 on your truck, and then take the wheel and just push it in on one side, turn it around, push it on the other side, and your bearing's on. Make sure you put the washer, one on the inside of the truck and one on the outside. Tighten it up, and there you have it. Now, for those of you who say pads aren't cool, is busting your head open cool? No. So you want to make sure you get a helmet that fits snug right on your head, and that you strap it in tight so that it's not going to lift off your head when you're spinning in the air. Make sure that you keep it down around your eyebrows and not way up here like this, because if you hit your head like this, you're just going to hit your head, not your helmet. Knee pads, elbow pads, and you're pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to get suited up here. We're going to go skate. Okay, you've got the equipment. What can we do with it? Well, let's learn some basics of skateboarding. We're going to take you through the fundamentals. We're going to talk about your foot placement, how to push, how to balance, and how to turn. We're going to tell you what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. And today we're joined by Chris Markovich, fellow pro skater. Hi, Chris.
How you doing, Tony?
Thanks for helping.
No problem.
Let's get started. All right, let's talk about your foot placement on your skateboard. First of all, you got to figure out if you are regular footed like Chris or goofy footed like me. Regular footers go with their left foot forward, goofy footers with their right foot forward. There's different ways you can figure that out. One's just, you know, whatever foot you're comfortable leading with.
A good way to learn is to take a skateboard deck without trucks or wheels, put it on a carpet, step back, and then just jump on it. And whatever way you jump on it is the way you're going to go. And it's either going to feel right or it's going to feel wrong, and you're going to know right away when you do it.
When you put your feet on the board, you want your front foot at a slight angle, toes pointing towards the nose, right over the front bolts, back foot straight across, right between the edge of the tail and the back bolts, and you are ready to go. All right, let's talk about pushing. Pushing is the way you're going to get your momentum the first time you skate. Key factors in pushing are your foot placement. We recommend that you push with your back foot and leave your front foot on the board. You want your front foot to be straight. You want to make sure your weight is forward. Most common mistake people make is they're leaning back and they shoot out as soon as they get on their board.
Have your knees bent, have your back foot about level with your front foot. Have your shoulders square. You want your weight a little over your front foot, because if it's back, again, you stand on your board, you loop out onto your butt. So have it weight forward, knees bent, and then you push off and you're ready to go.
Notice that the foot placement is actually different while you're pushing than when you're riding. The foot is more of a straight angle, although you still want your toes and your heel on each side of the board just enough that you can make adjustments if necessary. The more you push, the more comfortable you will get with it. In time, you can take bigger strides and go much faster. Some common mistakes with pushing, well, the most common is called Mongo foot. And Mongo foot is the act of pushing with your front foot instead of your back. You get much less control, you don't get as much speed. You have to set up your feet more when you stop the push, and we do not recommend it.
Another thing is getting ahead of yourself. Start pushing, you're not really paying attention, and you start pushing out of control. You lose the center of gravity. You want to keep your weight over your board. Take your time, get nice smooth pushes, make sure your knees are bent, and stay over your board.
And don't get your foot too far out because you get less stride that way.
Warrior needs food badly. Valkyrie is about to die.
And you can't stress enough, do not push Mongo. It's really bad.
All right, once you're in motion, you're comfortable on the board, you need to get where you're going, and you want to direct yourself by turning. Turning's pretty obvious, it's just leaning one way or the other. Basically, you want to start your turn, you want to create sort of a semicircle. Think about you're leaning in towards a circle, your shoulders are over the edge of the board that you're turning towards. If you're turning towards your toes, you're turning backside. You're turning towards your heels, you're turning front side. And that's about it. You just kind of plan it early, plan ahead as you start to see the turn coming, lean into it, and when you want to come out of it, lean back over the middle of your board and straighten your shoulders.
Another way to learn how to turn is the way I learn. It's called the tic-tac. Helps you get a little bit more board control, helps you generate speed, and it's a good way to continue your turning. And what it is basically you stand on your board the normal way you'd ride, and you put your weight to your back foot and unweight your front foot. You turn a half turn to the left and then a half turn to the right, and you start going back and forth, and you're gyrating your hips and your shoulders, and that generates speed, gives you more control on your board, and helps you with your turning.
The most common mistake with turning is leaning too far, and it's called wheel bite. Your wheel actually touches the bottom of your board and it'll stop you from moving. As you can see, we all make that mistake. So basically you just find the happy medium there, and the faster you go, the looser your trucks are going to feel, so you want to adjust them accordingly. Other than that, just work on these basic skills, the motion, the balance, the turning, and let's start learning some tricks like the ollie. All right, let's talk about the basics of street skating. We want to take you through the elusive ollie and 180s and pop shove-its.
And once we're taking you through the ollies, the 180s, and the shove-its, we're going to teach you kick flips and heel flips.
So let's get started. Let's go street skating. The most important trick you're going to learn in skating is the ollie. And the ollie is the act of jumping up, using only your feet and bringing the board up with you without grabbing it. The key elements to the ollie are timing, and your weight distribution and your foot placement. So basically what you want to do is kick down on your back foot so that just snaps the tail down, and as your board comes up, you slide your front foot forward in a rolling motion. That'll bring it level up to your feet. You're in the air, your knees are bent, and you land it with all four wheels.
Place your front foot near the middle of your board and your back foot on the very tip of the tail. Kick downward with your back foot until the tail snaps off the ground, and lift the front foot at the same time, slide it forwards towards the nose in a rolling motion. As the board gets airborne, bend your back knee so that it levels out. Once the board is flat and at its peak, straighten both legs simultaneously, keeping pressure on your board until it lands.
Good way to learn it is stationary. You can do it in the grass or on the carpet, and you will fall trying to learn it, so get comfortable doing it stationary on the rugged grass.
Yeah, there's no motion there, so when you land, you're not going to be shooting out. The ollie is all about practice. I mean, you can do it for years and years, you can keep improving on it, but it's frustrating. You just got to keep at it.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest tricks to learn, and once you get it, you'll be so happy and you'll use it in everything you do.
Make sure to keep leaning forward whenever you do an ollie in motion to prevent landing in a wheelie and falling backwards. Once you have learned to ollie, try it over various obstacles, like curbs, benches, hips, pyramids, your friend's skateboard, or even your friend. Well, okay, don't try it over your friend.
All right, once you're pretty confident with your ollies, we can talk about 180 ollies. And 180 ollie is basically half a turn with your body and your board in the air as you ollie. One of the first ways to learn it is by doing it front side. Front side means you're turning towards your front heel, and you can see the ollie the whole way around. Basically, you're winding up your shoulders and ollieing, and as you ollie, your lower body will follow your shoulders. And as you come around, if you're not turned completely, you can kind of use your feet to adjust that and land on your front wheels first and just sort of drive it around.
Backside 180 is basically the same thing, but you're turning your shoulder the other way, going the blind. And same, if you're not around the whole way, you can use your front feet, land, pivot around, you got 180s.
And it doesn't necessarily mean one's easier than the other. I've seen people learn one before the other. It just depends on what you're comfortable with. Just basically try both, see which one feels better. Let's go.
As you slide your front foot forward to level out the ollie, concentrate on getting it just past the front bolts. That way you can adjust for not turning enough with a slight pivot as you land. Make sure to shift your weight over your back foot as you're turning so that you are ready to land backwards. You can initially learn backside 180s by scooping the board with your back toe and making the turn in one motion. Be sure to look over your back shoulder as soon as possible in order to see your landing. Once you are confident with the backside 180 motion, you can try the 180 later in order to get more pop in your ollie.
So before you go practicing these basic maneuvers in the skate park, we recommend that you try them near your home first, maybe on your sidewalk or in an empty parking lot where you're not going to be in people's way when you're trying the stuff over and over.
I found what worked best for me when I was learning was to learn it in the carpet at your house stationary. Get comfortable doing that, and then take it outside on the sidewalk, and then go to the skate park.
Shove it, pop shove it. Pop shove it is an ollie where you spin the board half a rotation under your feet and your feet stay in the same place. And you can do it front side or backside. We're gonna take you through backside, which is a little bit easier.
First thing you wanna know is it's not a good stationary trick. You wanna have at least a little bit of forward momentum going, just enough where you're comfortable. And then next thing is your foot placement.
So basically your back foot is really the controller of the whole thing. And when you ollie, you push it and it turns 180. And your front foot is stationary. As soon as the board comes around, you see it on your front foot, place it down, and you're on your way. And you can just practice the motion with your back foot, just like that.
You have to pop the tail from exactly in the center, otherwise the board will flip as it comes around. Give it a slight kick towards your back heel as you take off to start the board turning. Keep your front foot in the same place with your knee bent, waiting for the board to come around. As the board comes around, place your front foot down to stop the rotation and keep pressure on it until your back foot is in place. Straighten both legs once your feet are in the proper riding position and set it back down. During a backside pop shove it, the board spins the exact same direction as it would when you're doing a backside kick turn. For a frontside pop shove it, it spins in the direction that you would when you're doing a frontside kick turn. You got that? For frontside pop shove-its, hang your back heel over the edge more and pop the board up by putting more pressure on the heel side of the tail. Keep your front foot up and give your board plenty of room as it spins around. You need to give it a little more space and time to complete the rotation because it will flip easily if it's caught too early.
Ooh, common mistake with the backside shove it. Well, Chris just showed that if you spin your board too far, it doesn't come out straight and you end up overturning and falling. So to avoid turning the board too far, basically it's just a more subtle kick. When you kick it out and you shove the board, you just don't want to kick it so hard. Do it a little bit lighter and wait for it to come around. Another common mistake is the board flipping. And to avoid the board flipping, it's just a matter of keeping it flat. As soon as you take off, you want to take off right at the very, very tip of your tail. Right at the edge. If you take off here, it's gonna flip this way. Take off here, it's gonna flip this way. So just make sure that right when you take off, it's centered. It's a slow spin, catch it, and don't do what Chris did. Kickflips. Kickflips is one of the most frustrating tricks to learn in skateboarding, but we're gonna try to help you to do it the easiest way possible. The basic motion is just like an ollie. Your body positioning is the same. Your feet take off just like an ollie, but as your front foot slides forward, you give it a flick, and that's what starts it spinning.
Yeah, you want to make sure that when you kick your front foot off the board, you kick it sort of out, but don't kick it too far away or too straight down. You want to keep your front foot basically under you, so as the board flips, you can get your feet back above the board in time. And as the board comes around, you watch the board and you feet over your bolts, stomp it down.
And the board, it doesn't always flip the exact same way. So sometimes it'll flip faster, sometimes slower, but you can basically just keep your feet out of the way and watch it. And as the grip tape comes around, just stomp your feet down on top of it.
Like a good way to do, to get used to watching the board spin, is you can do it stationary, standing in the carpet or in your driveway, anywhere, is just basically pop the tail down and then smack the board with your hand and then get the flip going, so that way you can be above it and actually see what the board looks like while it's spinning, and then you can move on to flipping it with your feet.
And you can definitely learn this stationary, carpet, grass.
Don't get frustrated, because this is one of the hardest tricks of skateboarding. I've been skating for 16 years and I still have problems with them every day, so.
Me too.
Place your feet in the same position as an ollie, but with your front heel hanging a little bit more off the edge in the beginning. As you pop the board, you slide your front foot forward and out slightly in order to start the board flipping and to keep it level as it comes around. Be sure to lean over your front foot as you watch the board flip, keeping your knees bent until it spins a complete rotation. Place your feet down as the grip tape side comes back around and is flat underneath you. Straighten your legs to keep the pressure on the board and to stop it from flipping.
As you can see, kickflips are not the most consistent trick. We've been doing it for years and we still need practice. But that's what it's all about. It's about just always trying to improve your skills and just keep at it. Most common mistakes with kickflips, well, the first one I think is to not flip the board enough, and that will definitely stop your motion. So how would you remedy that?
If you're not flipping enough, then you can just give it a little bit harder flick. And if you're flipping it too much, then maybe a little less flick.
Just watch it come around and make sure you time your feet, the straightening of your legs as your grip tape comes around, and really just make sure it's flat on your feet. And it's catching it. Catching it is what you can always work on. You can catch it higher and higher and higher. Another common mistake is not leaning far enough forward. So you're flipping, but your front foot's always landing on the ground. And that's just more about a commitment and about leaning over your front shoulder and just evening your weight as you land.
Another thing too is when you're learning them, a lot of times you kick straight down and your foot goes too far down or too far out, and you don't have enough time to get your foot back over your board. So to remedy that, just use more of your toe on the flick and not your whole foot or your whole leg. Just give it a little flick with your ankle.
It's a more subtle movement than you think. So just keep practicing. I mean, kickflips is something you can always improve on, and it's all about your timing, and it's all about your commitment.
Practice,
So keep at it.
practice, practice.
Well, heel flips is the same principle as a kickflip, but you're flipping your board in the opposite direction, and you don't really flip it with your heel.
You kind of use the whole side of your foot, and then you push it off in the same direction as you do a kickflip, just the opposite side of the board out in front of you. Kickflip goes behind you. With a heel flip, you roll out in front, and you roll with the side of your foot off the tip of your board, and it's using the ball of your heel, but mostly your whole foot.
I find that setting up with the ball of your big toe right on the rail, that really gives you the edge for the right kind of motion. And the motion is really more of a rolling motion with your heel rather than a flick like the kickflip. So it's more about just getting your board spinning and rolling it and getting your foot out of the way, watching it come around as it flips. You have a lot more room for error on this one because you don't have to worry about the precise flip.
Tony's going to show you a few right now.
Yeah. I'm not very good at them.
Set up your back foot on the edge of the tail, just like an ollie, but with a little more heel hanging off the edge. Your front foot should be just behind the front bolts, straight across, with just your toes hanging off the edge. As you pop the ollie, kick your front foot towards your toes in a rolling motion, while keeping your weight back over the board. Leaning too far over your toes will prevent you from getting your feet back on your board properly. Lift your back foot straight up and wait for the board to spin completely before setting it back down. Focus on keeping your weight centered over your heels as it flips, and as you see the grip tape come around, place your feet back down and straighten your legs to keep it flat. Keep leaning forward as you land and claim your first heel flip. snap my fingers, and voila, you do the trick.
All right, well, we've taken you through the basics of street skating, ollies, 180s, kick flips, heel flips, shove-its, and those are all really the basics to get you started on any number of tricks. You can think of all kinds of variations from there.
Yeah, any one of those, you can take them to curbs, ledges, bars, anything, down gaps.
And you can combine them, you know, kick flip 180s, shove-its, 360 flips. I mean, there's a whole slew of tricks from there.
It's endless potential in doing it. But after you've learned all this, you can take them up to the mini ramp, try them on mini ramps, vert ramps, whatever.
And just remember to don't get too frustrated with yourself, because all this stuff takes so much time. And, you know, we've been doing it for years and we're still learning how to do it better and better techniques. So just stick with it and eventually you'll get it. And next we're gonna take you to the mini ramp. So we're gonna learn the basics of mini ramp skating, and mini ramps are generally about this size, 6 feet and under. No vert, less intimidating. You can learn the basics of pumping. Pumping is how you get speed going up and down the transition, and we're gonna talk about foot placement, pushing, weight distribution, and we're joined by fellow pro Chris Markovich. So Chris, how do you usually put your feet on the board when you're skating mini ramps?
I usually start up by my front foot, right on top of the lower 2 bolts of my front chuck. A little bit at an angle, so you can have a little bit of control in turning the board.
Yeah.
And back foot directly over back 4 bolts. Perfect.
Yeah, I like to keep my back foot kind of behind the back 4 bolts, just so you can get ready to do tricks.
Yeah.
But probably if you're starting out, you might want to put them over the front bolts so that you don't endo into the wall either way.
Yeah, and definitely on your front, you want it a little bit back because you don't want it on the front, because when you go up into the wall, you endo forward as well.
Right, so sort of a happy medium there. And you want to start out by pushing from the opposite wall and pushing into the front wall, and then we'll talk about pumping. So once your feet are set up properly, you gotta learn how to pump. 3 keys to pumping. First, using your knees to pump through the transition. Second is timing. Time the pump through the transition to get the most speed possible, and shifting your weight. Shifting your weight as you come up to the top, shifting it on the way back down, get ready to come back down the ramp. So let's start.
Start with your knees bent as you approach the wall, and straighten your legs through the transition until they are fully extended and you have reached your apex. Bend your knees as you start to descend and shift your weight to your downward foot. Once again, straighten your legs as you pass through the curve of the transition and you will gain more speed. Staying centered over your board is the key to keeping your balance and maintaining your speed while skating transitions.
All right, so those are the basics of learning how to pump. You know, I used to know a guy that he would pump, and he wouldn't look the other way when he was going, so he didn't really know when he was going to hit the wall. And I figured that it's easier if you actually look which way you're going. I don't know. Do you have any techniques you use?
Yeah, for me, I like to look both ways when I go. But I guess one thing I used to do is when I never could get the timing or anything right, so or to throw my weight, so I used to use my arms and like throw my arms up and then throw them back down. Throw them up, throw them back down. It looked pretty stupid doing it, but it worked out.
Well, I guess I could get used to the timing, though.
Yeah, it helps you out a lot.
You could learn to do it a little more subtle after that.
Yeah, you tame it a little bit and then look both ways and you should be all right.
So I guess after that, you could learn how to do kick turns. We'll teach you how to get closer to the top and eventually drop in. So you're comfortable with riding up the ramp and coming back down backwards. Next thing you want to learn is how to kick turn. And a kick turn is basically a 180 on the ramp. The easiest way to learn it is backside towards your toes. Basically, you come up the ramp, turn 180 on your back wheels, come back down the ramp forward. And
Let's do it on the flat ground first.
yeah, we can show you doing the flat first, and then we'll take it up to the ramp.
Start to turn your shoulders as you go up the wall and gently lift your front wheels when you get near your apex. Turn your lead shoulder in the direction you want to go and your lower body will follow. Keep your head turning in unison with the board. Don't look too far ahead of it. As you complete the turn, place your wheels back on the wall, lean forward and prepare to ride back down. Make sure not to put too much weight on your back foot as you turn to prevent doing a wheelie on the way back down the wall. If you feel comfortable with your backside kick turns, try doing them front side, but start off lower to get a feel for turning the other way because it's a whole different ball game.
So the most common mistake with kick turns is to put too much weight on the back foot and in the process overturning and ending up not coming down straight. And Chris, would you be kind enough to demonstrate that for us?
Yeah, sure. Wait.
Exactly. That's what you don't want to do. So just make sure your turn is subtle and you're coming back down the wall straight. Thanks, Chris. Good job.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The biggest step in skating a mini ramp is trying to figure out how to drop in on it. And it may look scary when you're first up here, but we're going to show you the safest way to go about it. So let's do it. One thing you want to remember with dropping in is to make sure you put your weight on your front foot as you go down. If you hesitate, that's when you get in trouble. So just make sure you put your foot in the right place, right over the bolts, and commit to it. Drop in, go, don't hesitate.
As your front wheels touch down, your weight shifts to your front leg, and as you descend, you want to even out that weight and absorb the transition with your knees. If you happen to fall because your weight is too far forward or backwards, compensate on the next attempt so that you stay centered over your board. Booyah! All
right, Chris is going to learn how to drop in switch here, so we're going to talk him through his first time. So Chris, just make sure that when you drop in, your weight goes over on your right foot, and you're leaning forward, and you're ready for the transition. Hit it. And you see how you committed to it? You didn't hesitate. You don't want to stand there too long looking at it, or you're going to psych yourself out. So just do it.
Another key to remember is to have your front shoulder over your front foot and to keep looking forward towards the other wall.
Biggest mistake with dropping in is to hesitate and not put your weight on the front foot. And Chris, you want to demonstrate that for us?
No, actually, no. Why don't you do it? Why don't you take the slam for once?
Okay, here's what not to do when dropping in. Once you put your foot down, make sure your weight's on it. Otherwise, you're going to go like this. So make sure that your weight's on your front foot as you go down. We've got most of the basics of mini ramp skating here. One slightly advanced move is called a rock to fakie, and you can do it from a drop in because you have plenty of speed going up the next wall. Basically, it's just rocking the bottom of your board on the coping and lifting it back up and bringing it back in. See Chris do one right here.
As you reach the coping, lift your front foot and poke your board over the top until your front wheels touch the deck. Make sure to clear your front wheels over the coping when coming back in by lifting your front foot as you start to roll back. As you're rolling back, put your weight on your back foot, which is now your lead foot, and aim your shoulder over your front foot while bending your knee. Make sure not to bash your truck on the way back in. Although you can get away with it on mini ramps, it can be very dangerous on bigger ramps and you will lock up and fall to the bottom.
All right, we took you through the basics of skating mini ramps, how to push across the flat bottom, proper feet positioning, how to shift your weight back and forth as you go up and down the ramp. We learned how to do kick turns, and Chris showed us, thankfully, how not to do kick turns.
Yeah, don't do that one.
Exactly. We learned how to drop in to a mini ramp, and I showed you how not to drop in. Thank you. And if you're feeling confident with your skating, you might want to try rock to fakie. And from here on out, you can try some more advanced tricks, you know, get into grinds, 50-50s, ollies, blunts. But for now, just remember to practice your basics, get comfortable on the mini ramp, and you'll keep getting better.
how you doing? My name is Brian Sumner, and hopefully you bought this video to have fun. So while you're out there trying these tricks, doing whatever you're doing, just don't get mad, don't get upset, don't get discouraged. Just remember that it's skateboarding, it's fun, just enjoy yourself.
Thanks, Brian. Well, with your help, we can explain the best ways to learn basic rail tricks, such as backside board slides, and we'll also cover frontside lip slides. And if you're really feeling confident on the rail, we'll take you through frontside 50-50s. But let's start with board slides.
Bing, bing, bing! Okay, I'm learning the board slide. You probably want to start more towards the end, smaller slide. You don't want to try the whole thing. Just take it easy and build it into your slide as you build strength of your confidence. That's all.
Good point, Brian.
Thanks.
Backside board slide is the easiest rail trick to learn. Key factors are your ollie, keeping your balance while you're sliding, and coming off the end. You should approach the rail at a slight angle and ollie just in time to clear your front wheels over the top. As you ollie, turn your board slightly towards the rail so that it ends up sliding straight. Once you're on top of the rail, lean forward in anticipation of the slide. Make sure that your weight is balanced evenly on both feet so that one side is not dragging. Your shoulders should also be squared off to keep your sliding position consistent. As you near the end of the rail, start to unweight your front foot and turn your board in order to land straight. Prepare your shoulders and make sure to set your board down so that the direction matches your body positioning. And ride away clean.
Some common mistakes with the board slide. One is not ollieing up to the rail enough, not approaching it at enough angle, and you end up with too much weight in your back foot, and it really doesn't let you slide it all the way through and prepare for a landing. Another common mistake is to not anticipate the slide and end up shooting out, leaning too far back. So what you want to make sure is when you get on the rail that your knees are bent and you're leaning forward, you're anticipating the slide, watching for the end of the rail, and as soon as you see the end of the rail coming, you start to lean back a little bit, turn the board, and that should even out your weight. You can ride away. After you learn board slides, I think the next thing you want to learn is a lip slide. The lip slide is similar to board slide, but you actually ollie 180 into the board slide. So a frontside lip slide ends up like a backside board slide. And we're gonna do it on the pyramid here because I think it's a little easier to get the lift off of the ramp.
Lip slides can be done on handrails, ledges, benches, and ramps. Okay?
Key factors to lip slide. First of all, you want to make sure that you can ollie over the rail.
Yeah, this is the same as a board slide, but only you're ollieing over, so.
Ollieing 180 over it. So you got to make sure you can actually clear the obstacle you're going to try it on.
Approach the obstacle at a slight angle and start your ollie so that you have enough distance and time to clear your back wheels over the top. As you set the board down, square off your shoulders and lean forward in preparation to slide the length of the rail. As you come off the rail, turn your board the full 90 degrees in order to ride down straight. Avoid landing sideways and kick turning the rest of the way, as it will be much harder to land at higher speeds.
All right, some common mistakes with lip slides. I think the most common, which I have done many times, Brian just demonstrated, is when you ollie too close to the rail, you don't give your tail enough time to clear it before you're actually getting over it. So you gotta make sure you're ollieing a little bit further away than when you're doing a board slide, but enough time to give your back trucks to clear the whole thing.
It's almost like, think about trying to lip slide something this high, you're not gonna ollie up there. So you wanna be able to ollie.
Yeah,
to get
overcompensate
above
for
it.
your ollie.
Like, think about how high the obstacle is.
And another common mistake is, well, really not preparing for the slide. You get in there and maybe you're leaning too far forward because you've been focusing so much on your ollie that you just end up sticking to the rail. The other most common mistake is the landing. That ollie 180 kind of twists your upper body into this position, and when you're landing, you got to make sure that you're ready to come out the other way. Otherwise, you'll be completely twisted up as you're landing and you'll just end up shooting off. So make sure that once you're sliding, you prepare your shoulders and your hips perpendicular to the rail and you're ready to just come off. Where's Brian? I can't get him to stop skating. We're supposed to be doing this video. Oh, frontside 50-50. That's a good one. Let's talk about those.
I do not have any taquitos with guacamole.
All right, frontside 50-50 basically is ollieing, kind of coming a little bit of an angle to the rail and ollieing a little closer to it than you would on a board slide. And as you ollie, you get both trucks on at the same time.
Once you feel it, stand up, let the trick grind. It's not like a board slide where you're everywhere, you're either on or you're gonna slip off. So commit, grind.
The grind will be very consistent with your trucks. So when you're coming off the end, basically ride off it as if you're riding off a curb.
Your approach should be much straighter than on a board slide. Do not ollie too high, but just enough to clear your wheels and land in the middle of your trucks. Your knees should be bent as you get on the rail and start to stand up when your balance feels solid as you're grinding. Maintain a steady balance throughout the grind, but be careful not to make any major adjustments as your trucks will easily slip off the rail. As you're near the end, be sure your board is flat. Lift your front wheels and you should easily drop off the end just as you would go down a curb.
All right, common mistakes with the frontside 50-50, as we just demonstrated, is ollieing too far over the rail. So unlike the board slides where you're really concentrating on ollieing high or too high, with the 50-50 it's got to be more precise landing on your trucks. So just make sure your trucks are both on.
Once you're on there, have your weight straight up. It's totally a bouncing act. You just got to stand on the rail. Your trucks are on, you'll grind. You don't get on properly, that's the only reason why you're going to fall off, slip or slam.
And just be prepared for that grind. As you're coming to the end, drop it off just like you're dropping off a curb. Speaking of curbs, practice this on a curb and just keep practicing it until you feel confident, then you can raise it to higher levels. Well, we covered the basics of rail grinds and slides, and from here, really, these tricks are the foundation of doing anything more technical on the rail. So once you've learned board slides, lip slides, and 50-50s, you can go into feeble grinds, Smith grinds, nose grinds, 5-0s, crooked grinds, blunt slides, tail slides, nose slides, hurricanes, salad.
Their own slides, their own grinds.
Yeah, whatever you want to make up. You know, if you can think of something new, it's all yours, and you get to name it.
What went wrong? Did you know? You never know what you're doing, you never know what to say. Can't tell me where you're going, can't tell me it's okay. What went wrong? I'm aware now, and I'm scared of this little girl and the way that she sings. What went wrong? Did you see that? Do you believe that everything is going down the pipe? X's for eyes, you got X's for eyes.
All right, let's talk about ledge tricks. Ledge tricks are tricks that can be done on curbs, on benches, or high ledges. We're going to take you through the easiest ways to do nose slides, tail slides, 5-0s, nose grinds, and crooked grinds. And today we're joined by professional Brian Sumner.
Hi.
Thanks for coming, Brian. Brian's going to help us guide you through it, so let's get started.
Okay.
All right, nose slides. Well, nose slides are basically going to the curb, ollieing onto it, and sliding on your front foot all the way over the nose with most of the weight on it. What's the best way you learn nose slides?
Find the curb, push up to it, just like ollie on, put your weight to the front of the board, land it gradually like that, and then
That'll get you the feel of getting up on the ledge.
yeah, you'll get your balance, your weight up there. You're gonna need that to be able to slide properly. Then take it from there.
Yeah, start approaching it at an angle and with a little more and more speed and start getting the feeling of the slide.
Get maybe like a bit more of an angle. See it slide a tiny bit more.
We'll demonstrate that right now.
Approach the ledge at an angle and ollie towards it so that your board ends up at a straight 90 degrees. Your entire nose should be over the ledge so that the base of your front truck is also touching. Put most of your weight over your front foot so that your board doesn't come off too early. Keep your shoulders straight and centered over your toes. You can adjust your lean if the surface becomes sticky or slick throughout your slide. As you prepare to come off, turn your shoulders and push on the nose like a slight nollie to keep your back wheels from landing before your front wheels. Be sure to lean forward as it comes off, since shooting out is very common on the landing of a nose slide. Does that make sense? Good.
So with nose slides, I think the most common mistake people make is not putting enough weight on their front foot. So once you get up there, you really want to bash it in and be leaning forward more towards the front of your foot and just keep that weight over your front foot. Otherwise, your back leg will start to drag down and you're gonna lose the nose slide. Once you're comfortable with nose slides, we're gonna take you through the tail slide. Tail slide's a little different because you have to actually ollie 180 up to the ledge, and generally you wanna do it front side so you can see which direction you're going. And what's the best way you learn frontside tail slides?
First of all, you have to ollie higher to get up to the ledge, rather than just being straight on. You have to ollie up to it more. Maybe learn frontside 180s a little better. Also, in a nose slide, you're really solid. Your front foot's really heavily down. Frontside tail slide, it's more you poke your toe out and get on the ledge, then adjust your weight and stay on there.
Brian's gonna show you the easiest way to approach a tail slide at a slight angle. Not too much speed, just getting up on the tail with your weight, coming right off, and eventually you can go a little faster, a little bit further, till you get comfortable with it.
As you ollie towards the ledge, prepare to put most of your weight on the tail. Once you are in position, keep leaning on your back foot so that your board stays on the ledge, just as you would during a nose slide. To come off the ledge, perform a slight ollie motion while turning forwards. Don't let your front wheels drop until your back wheels are just about to land.
What do you think the most common mistake is with tail slides?
Tail slides, definitely people, they don't realize that you have to ollie 90 degrees to get into it.
Or if you ollie too close to the ledge, then you're not gonna clear your tail of it as you're moving the ollie, and it's gonna hit the middle.
Or you'll
of it.
land in it like this and you won't slide, you'll fall forward.
Yeah, so really you just gotta make sure you're far enough away that you're gonna ollie full 90 degrees into the tail slide and keep it straight as you're sliding through. If you start to turn, that's gonna stop you on your wheel. And then it's the same theory as the nose slide, you know, the weight distribution on your back foot and just pushing it through, keeping it balanced until you're ready to come off. Our frontside 5-0s. What techniques have you learned for frontside 5-0s?
First of all, 50-50, you know, both trucks, 5-0 is just one truck. Best thing to do, learn to manual. If you ollie on something manual, find a curb, waxed or whatever, ollie onto your 50-50s, then ollie onto your 5-0. Probably at first, you're gonna drag your tail and then flip out a bit.
So just adjust your balance, either forward or backward, depending on how slippery the surface is.
Yep.
And guide it through until you're ready to come off. Just drop down.
Have your back foot maybe as close to the ball as you can at times, so you're balanced.
Like the tail slide, you can learn the general motion of a 5-0 by doing it stationary on a ledge or a curb. Use the same approach as a frontside 50-50. As you ollie, put your weight on your back foot, stay centered, but lean your front shoulder slightly over your nose. Word. Keep leaning forward in preparation for the landing and ride off the end just as you would drop off a curb. When coming off in the middle of a ledge, keep your truck grinding slightly sideways so that you can drop off at any point that you feel ready.
All right, nose grinds. Nose grinds is the same approach as a 5-0. You want to learn how to do nose manuals, balancing only on your front wheels. And front side is usually the easiest way to approach it. You can see it the best, it's the easiest way to balance. What helped you learn frontside nose grinds?
When I learned frontside 5-0s, first I would lean back and slip out. Learning frontside nose grinds, I would just ollie in, just like a 50-50. Push forward, you have to kind of straighten your front leg a lot and drive it through the curb. Most of the time, you stick, fall forward, you got to just learn your manuals, ollie into your manual and just balance and grind properly.
Keep it pushing forward and make sure you're not turning too much, and that'll bring you off the ledge. So let's try some.
Be sure to keep leaning forward through the grind and to keep your truck straight to the obstacle. As you near the end, give it a slight push forward like a little nollie in order to keep your feet on until you land. This will also help you land all wheels simultaneously. A crooked grind is halfway between a nose slide and a nose grind. You can learn the proper positioning by doing stationary stalls on a ledge. Approach the obstacle at less of an angle than a nose slide. When grinding, keep pushing the nose forward while leaning over your front foot. Once again, push downward in a nollie motion to come off the end. Keep leaning forward to prevent shooting out.
All right, well, we've covered everything you need to know about skateboarding. Well, maybe not everything, but most of the stuff you need to get started and all the basics. Make sure you buy your skateboard at a skate specialty store, one that knows what they're talking about, one that can steer you in the right direction with equipment. And wear your safety gear, especially when you're skating at skate parks. And then when you're at a skate park, make sure that you're not in the way. You gotta be aware of where everyone's heading, and don't stand on an obstacle or you become an obstacle yourself. So just make sure that the coast is clear when you're going to ride and that you're not gonna be in any dangerous situation. Most of all, you know, this stuff takes a long time to learn, but just keep at it and you'll get it. But really, what we wanna stress most is have fun with it. You know, do it because you enjoy it. And I will see you at the skate park.
This video was brought to you in part by TechDex. Yay. Bing, bing, bing!
Pick one.
Give you those.
Oh, wait a minute. He didn't just say what I think he did he? Warrior needs food, badly. Valkyrie is about to die. Is this thing on?
Prepare to qualify. Congratulations, you qualified the race.
I need more time, please. Stinky. Wow, wow, like a dungeon dragon. Boop. You missed that one. You missed that little boopy boopy. You did not get it. It's party food. I do not have any taquitos with guacamole. Word up. Wonderful. You were not recording. You did not hear me say it. We're all waiting. Never mind. Never mind. I tried to Gen X with you guys, and now I've got 40 seconds of junk. Lip slides can be done. Oh my. Okay, feedback. Oh, come on now. Do you like Chin Poco, man? You're laughing at me and I cannot do it. I snap my fingers and voila, you do the trick.